Hello everyone and welcome to Stitch Bliss Corner. Mari Rose here. Nice to see you all again. And I just want to do a couple of shout outs first. One to Sylvia Beckersland. It looks as though I have enabled you to read Murder Most Royal by Jean Plaidy. I think that's the book that you were holding up because you said it was about his wives. And although it's in a different language, I think that's the one that you've got. So I hope you enjoy it. And hello to Cindy, beautiful butterfly Cindy. Lovely. No more can be said for that. The golden threads of friendship. What else was I going to say? Oh, well, really, this is an update for everyone on the Scout that I'm doing. And also I'm going to start another project. And I thought that I would just do a little bit about that as well. So first of all, without further ado, I shall get on to The Scout by Charles M. Russell. That's the one that I'm stitching. And I thought you might be interested to know a little bit more about the man that painted that, because he was a prolific painter. And this one here is a Pawnee. And it says that he did not often paint the Pawnees, but when he did, he made them easily identifiable by the distinctive roach hairstyle favoured by their men in the buffalo hunting days. Pawnee warriors often spent hours painting their horses, braiding their tails, fastening coloured feathers to their manes, and painting their own faces in preparation for battle against the Sioux. And I've got a picture of the hairstyle here he's talking about. There. You see how he's painted his face. And here's a picture of Charles M. Russell. This is Russell's fine study of the solitary warrior mounted and poised for action. It's watercolour, pencil and gouache on paper. Well, I thought it was oil. So here was I thinking, oh well, if my stitches aren't absolutely perfect, that's will be part of the whole thing, because oil is often quite uneven in its surface. So, but anyway, not to worry. Now, he was born in 1864 in St. Louis, Missouri, and he died in 1926, aged 62, in Great Falls, Montana. He created more than 2,000 paintings of cowboys, Native Americans and landscapes, in addition to bronze sculptures. And I've got a few pictures to show you shortly. In the C.M. Russell Museum in Great Falls, Montana, there are more than 2,000 Russell artworks, personal objects and artefacts. Now his 1918 painting Piegans, that's P-I-E-G-A-N-S, sold for $5.6 million at a 2005 auction. So I'll just show you the picture of the Piegans. It's not a great, it's not very clear, but technology and I just do not get on very well together at all, I've decided. Bear with me a moment, I've got a few other things on here, that's why it's taking a moment. Yes, that's the Piegans. is quite a piece of artwork. And here's another one. This is called The Wagon Boss. There's it. And then if you look carefully, you'll see who is aiming that gun at, or preparing to. Over here, it's a bear. That'd startle you, wouldn't it, if you were on the trail and a bear turned up? Oh dear. Okay, so that's some of his pictures there. And a little bit more about him. His childhood in Missouri, he spent hours reading about the Wild West. He learned to ride horses. At 16, he moved to Montana to work on a sheep ranch. He was working on a ranch and the owner asked how the herd was going. That's because the owner wasn't there. He was just asking the station manager or the ranch manager. The foreman did not send him a letter, but a postcard-sized watercolour Russell had painted of a gaunt steer being watched by wolves under a grey sky. The owner showed the work to friends and Russell's works began. In 1888, Russell lived with Blood Indians, a branch of the Blackfeet Nation. This is from sidrichardsmuseum.org, this information. And it is thought that much of his knowledge of Native American culture came from this period. He married in 1896 to a woman called Nancy. She was 18 and he was 32. Nancy is given the credit for marketing his work and making him world famous. On the day of Russell's funeral in 1926, all the children of Great Falls, Montana were released from the school to watch the funeral procession. Russell's coffin was displayed in a glass-sided coach pulled by 4 black horses. So that's the rather wonderful Charles Marion Russell. And here is where I'm up to with my stitching, which I have thoroughly enjoyed. I feel as though Sarah from the pointillism guy is on my shoulder the whole time saying, good on you, you know, for keeping on doing those points of confetti. It'll be worth it in the end. That's what he keeps telling me. There's the... I just love that arm, the way that's coming in. The feathers over here. I've decided I'm going to start working over on this side on the horse now, because I've had my fun here. I think I'd be too tempted to keep going up and do his head, which I don't want to do until later. Of course, I've got some, if you look there, I've got my squares that I've put in just to make it a bit easier, because when you're doing all the confetti and you're lining up, if you just do a few threads over the top, squares, it's just easier to work out where your little stitches are going to go. So, that's where I'm up to with that one. And the next one that I'm going to begin is going to be this one. And it's a Harlequin, which they've always fascinated me, Harlequins. So I thought I'd just do a little bit of history. I'll show you that again when I've finished here. About the Harlequin character. And the Harlequin first appeared in the 16th century. His costume was at first a peasant's shirt and long trousers with many coloured patches, which later went through several changes until it became a tight-fitting costume. I've got quite a few pictures of Harlequins. A tight-fitting costume decorated with triangles and diamond shapes. He had a slapstick or a bat, that's B-A-T-T-E, a black half mask with tiny holes, arched eyebrows, and a wrinkled forehead that was painted on the mask, which gave the impression of being quizzical, cat-like, sly, and having astonished credulity. The role of the Harlequin is believed to have been introduced by Zan Ganassa in the late 16th century and was made popular by the Italian actor Tristano Martinelli. I've got a picture here of that gentleman. That's it there. So he was the Italian actor that made the Harlequin famous in Paris. And this one here is another early Harlequin. See the black mask there. And Martinelli's Harlequin costume, he had a hat, and on the back of it was a hare tail, H-A-R-E, tail, to indicate cowardice. Let's see what else we have here. He wore a linen costume of colourful patches. He had a moustache and a painted beard. The Harlequin character became a stock character, a stereotype whom audiences could immediately recognise due to familiarity with his appearances. He was distinguished, usually a stereotype character or a stock character is distinguished by their flatness, and they can be easily sent up and criticised. Now at first the character of the Harlequin was witty and that of a comic servant to his master. He was cowardly, superstitious, and apparently he was always after money, and if he ever saw any food he'd just gorge into it, which I suppose the audience members would be thinking that was quite funny. It was entertainment. He often thwarted the plans of his master and pursued his love interest, Columbine, often competing for her affections with Perrot or Perrault, P-I-E-R-R-O-T, that was a clown. As time went on, the Harlequin character became the prototype of the romantic hero. He develops physical agility. You know, they ended up doing somersaults just spontaneously and leaping about and everything, and probably geeing the audience up if it was getting a bit boring. And then he developed trickster qualities as well. And I should imagine the costume must have developed according to the character as well, because originally he probably wasn't that agile, but as time went on, if he was leaping around, a tighter costume would have accentuated the movement and made it easier for him to move around. Now that slapstick, or the bat that he held, what happened was, rather than being a side character, eventually the Harlequinade developed, and the Harlequinade was where he was more the centre of attention than being a side character. And what he used to do, he had a bat or a slapstick, and when he waved it, the scenery would magically change. So then I suppose the Harlequin got this mystical quality about him as well, where you weren't quite sure what the next thing he was going to do was going to be, you know. So that would have been, well, it would be quite exciting to go and watch a play with a Harlequin in. I recently went to see Swan Lake, and there's a jester in that, which I suppose is a kind of a Harlequin. And he was always running around causing mischief, and you were always on the lookout for him, you know. So I think it probably would be a favourite character for an actor to play a Harlequin. Now, anything else? I think eventually it went to, in the 17th century, the Harlequin character went to England, and the plays went on, I suppose, with him evolving as a character and work being written around the character, and pantomimes started where you have a lot of slapstick humour, well, maybe that's where slapstick came from, the slapstick of the Harlequin, for all I know. I mean, I'm just guessing at that. But anyway, I'll just show you a few more pictures of different Harlequins, because the interesting thing too is not only was the Harlequin a fascinating character for audiences and in plays and in works of literature, but a lot of artists were very inspired by the Harlequin character as well. And there are quite a few famous artists that have painted Harlequins. So anyway, I'll just show you some of these pictures here. This one is a Picasso Harlequin. Then we have, I know this guy, this is a modern Harlequin, and I just put that in there because it's very similar to the one that I'm stitching, so, or will be stitching. I haven't started yet. There's a Harlequin puppet, a paper puppet. I don't know if he's got little ways of moving his lower legs. Probably there's a little hinge in there on his arms and his legs. All various themes based on the Harlequin figure. Here's another one of Picasso, and that's a Harlequin with a black hat in 1918. There's another one, different period of Picasso's artistic development. I feel a bit like that in the mornings, actually. What's this one? It's another rather thoughtful Harlequin there. He looks a bit sad, doesn't he? Then Cézanne, this is one of my favourites. I think it's fabulous, that one. And Degas, he got in on the act as well. Of course, he's Degas. Oh, sorry, it's going mad. Degas was very famous for his ballet paintings. Now here's Picasso's Cubism phase. And there's Harlequin and Perrot, the one that was the rival for Columbine's affections. There's another Cézanne with Perrault there. Something about the theatre, isn't there? Oh, here's Columbine. Another Columbine. Giovanni Domenico Ferretti decided that that was the Harlequin and Columbine that he envisaged. And these were the two, the Payne brothers, as Clown and Harlequin, and that was in England when they were decided to. They were very famous, apparently, those two, and you can see where pantomime would have developed. I'll put some links underneath to all these. And here is a scene from one of my favourite ballets, The Nutcracker Suite. We have that on every Christmas on our TV. Magical, magical ballet. Right. I think that's all about the mysterious Harlequin and how he's developed over time from very simple character to quite a complex one, really. And here again is the picture that I'm going to be doing. And there's a little bit of information. This is from, well, I don't even know where it's from, actually. It's from that friend that gave me all these different... I'll see if I can find out when I start stitching him where this came from. But there's a close-up. And you'll notice the mask there is white, but it's got here, the colourful figure of Harlequin conjures up the festive atmosphere of pantomimes and Venetian carnivals, a traditional character in the Italian commedia dell'arte, a popular form of comedy shown in Italian theatres during the 16th to 18th centuries. Harlequin was hopelessly in love with Columbine, and in this picture he stands with a romantic red rose for her in one hand and a love letter in the other. His face is hidden behind a carnival mask. The figure is stitched to look realistic rather than stylized. So, I'm quite looking forward to doing him. Well, thank you very much once again for your company. For those who saw my Henry VIII video, you might have noticed that when I was showing his children, I had the picture there showing his children, there was a little pause before I went to Edward and Mary, and the Elizabeth picture, I accidentally called her Anne. I think it's because I was thinking Anne Boleyn all the way through. So we just took out that because I didn't want that to be that picture to be incorrectly labelled as Anne when it was Elizabeth. So that's why there was a little moment there where that picture was there, but there was no name to go with it. Well, it was Elizabeth, so. And I think that's all for today. Thank you very much for your company, and thank you to my subscribers, and if you're here for the first time, welcome, and I'll see you again next time at Stitch Bliss Corner. Bye for now.